Hey you, welcome back to the channel. And guys, today we're going to review Spider-Man Homecoming. And guys, the movie's been out a little over a week now. And this will be a spoiler-filled review. So if you haven't seen the movie quite yet, it's always alright. Come back after you've seen the movie. That way I don't spoil it for you. As we approach our second week, if you have seen the movie, sit down. Let's talk about what we got in Spider-Man Homecoming. So, guys, basically, this Spider-Man follows up on the Spider-Man we know Tom Holland from Captain America Civil War. And as I had been saying in earlier videos, I think this Spider-Man had captured a lot of, just that balance of what a lot of Spider-Man fans wanted Spider-Man to be. If we looked at the Tobey Maguire's character in the Sam Raimi's version, to kind of kickstart the franchise, I think, we were still kind of stuck on the kind of emotional, dark, brooding hero. That movie didn't really capture a lot of the the fun elements of Spider-Man. He was this troubled character. He was dealing with Uncle Ben's death. He dealt a lot with the ups and downs of trying to balance his life between Spider-Man and Peter Parker. And so we had a lot of that play out in the movie. And with Andrew Garfield's character, they tried to get away from that, but they didn't really. A lot of people didn't feel like this character really captured the full character of Spider-Man, the funny character of Spider-Man. Some people felt he just came off more like a jerk. But anyway, some kind of way Tom Holland seemed to kind of fit this middle character and the middle path, if you will, and that kind of started to work. We kind of start to see a version of Spider-Man I think a lot of people wanted to see. 15-year-old kid gets superpowers, and he's having fun with being a superhero for the most part. And I think this movie did a good job of tackling that. Now, unfortunately, this movie for me had a lot of issues, and I was kind of surprised at that. I was kind of surprised at some of the issues this Spider-Man movie had. A lot of people were saying they thought it was the best Spider-Man movie they've seen. I don't know about that it's the best. It's the best. It's a really good Spider-Man movie. It's definitely one of the best. I don't know if it's, I wouldn't say it's the best. I would say it's one of the best movies that had Spider-Man in it. But I don't think that this movie really carried itself fully as a Spider-Man movie, and things. There are natural reasons I think why this might have happened, and we'll get into some of them a little bit. And some of it has to do with the age of the characters. They chose to go with this very young Spider-Man, like we've seen in some Spider-Man versions where he's still in high school with high school kids. We know that. So, when we're dealing with high school kids, and the look of this Spider-Man is not like one of these Spider-Mans where they go and it's about high school and they got like 30-40-year-olds playing high school characters. No, these are looks like real high school, real teenage actors that they're using to play these parts. And so, right there, we've got to, really look at it like what it is, that these are kids, in acting roles, and there are going to be some limitations with that unless you just have this extraordinary young actor or actress like the young actress on Game of Thrones who plays kind of Mormont. That's just a throw out to my Game of Thrones fans. It's coming out tonight. But she's very young, and she just has some type of thing where even though she's young, she's kind of wise beyond her years, where she can really embody these characters. Now, a lot of childhood actors, teenage actors just aren't going to be able to do that understandably. Don't have those experiences to pull from. So you're going to get some limitations in that. You are going to get, because the reason I'm bringing that all out, guys, is some critics are saying that this movie wasn't really strong enough. The Tom Holland, the Spider-Man, it wasn't really strong enough to carry this movie. And I think that has to do a lot with his age, and I don't think we can really hold him accountable for that, as the script calls for, for people that young. Now, with someone like Tom Holland, I think for him probably being his age and playing that character and seeming to really fit that demographic, I think he did probably as best a job as could be reasonably expected. So I wouldn't take off points for that. That wasn't such the problem with the film, but I do think that the way that this film was done, things that the people found more enjoyable were the connections to the Avengers, the Iron Man scenes, and we get a lot of that. We get a lot of assistance from from that area. And Marvel has done a good job of incorporating all these various elements into their standalone movies and grouping them together to where they tell an overall story. But I think that's they're going a little too intricate with, like, even in the scenes here with Vulture, Adrian Toomes, a lot of things that cause him to become the Vulture have to do a lot with what happened in the attack in New York. He's finding a lot of this. He's trying to clean up with a construction contract and make money to support his family's the idea. And so the government steps in because they want to quarantine that area. They don't want him, obviously collecting alien technology and all that. So they got to shut his contract off. And apparently the government doesn't reimburse you or pay you or anything like that. Which is, I didn't know it worked like that. I would have thought, that the government would have been a little bit more reasonable in a situation like that to at least try to, to take care of that. But apparently not. Apparently he took the risk and that's all on him. But anyway, guys, so they got that into, this is what creates the Vultures, we know. And so they got that all mixed up in there. Very intricate details. I just don't think, I think Marvel's just getting a little too intricate with tying up all the loose ends and connecting it to the story. Is every villain somehow connected, spawned from these events? And all I'm saying is I don't think every event has to be part of just this one story. And that kind of goes back into some of the problems I had with the film, that for me it did just feel like another Avengers movie with Spider-Man in it. And I think this Spider-Man is set up to beat it. I don't think he really needs standalone films. I think how they did him in Captain America Civil War, I really don't think he needs his own movie, because as we looked at this movie and as this movie told the story, you really didn't get a lot of origin story about this Spider-Man. You didn't get any really specific details about this Spider movie. The movie just assumed that the two Spider-Man movies and reboots, and if you don't know who Spider-Man is by now, all these reboots in this short period of time, then in all these Spider-Man movies, you're just out of luck, and so, but based on that, because we already knew, who Spider-Man was, I don't think he needs to really have his own movies, because this Spider-Man's been set up so much to be part of the Marvel, universe, and to be part of the Avengers team or related to the Avengers team, that I think they just could just drag them along like they did Hawkeye and the Vision. They didn't get their own standalone films. Not everybody needs to get their standalone films. I think the Spider-Man story's probably been told enough. Another issue was, Spider-Man, he he basically, and I'm losing my point of reference with this film, and that's another. Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say that Spider-Man. I think we were so the expectations were so high with this film that, you know, it was going to be hard for this Spider-Man to just please everybody anyway. And don't get me wrong, guys, this was an entertaining movie. It was a good movie, but I just think that it wasn't nothing about this movie really said a lot about Spider-Man to me. I didn't really, the character of Spider-Man, I liked more of the Tony Stark parts. I like more of the overall story parts with this Spider-Man than just a Spider-Man story, right? You know, even his suit, you know, this suit is greatly inspired. You know, it has Stark technology. It's, you know, it's very Tony Stark-ish because Tony Stark made the suit, and because it's an AI as part of the suit, now the Spider-Man suit's a character of its own. So now you got this weird thing going on where you got a Spider-Man suit that's a main character along with Tom Holland, and you know, so that's just, you know, that's just kind of making it more impersonal with Tom Holland being Spider-Man, I thought. So I another thing that happens through the film when Tony Stark takes the suit, I kind of like that. I kind of liked him taking the suit and then Spider-Man kind of going off on his own and using his own abilities, coming into his own Spider-Man, not this manufactured Spider-Man that was created by the Avengers or Tony Stark. And I wish he kept it that way. I wish, you know, he would have just, you know, kept his, you know, this made-up suit he did, and not use the Tony Stark suit, because everything with the Avengers and Tony Stark, it just to me, it just made it just another Avengers movie, right? If that makes sense, it just really took away from the, you know, from the it being a standalone movie. And what I'm saying is, if it's not going to be a standalone movie where we can just really focus on him and not have Tony Stark come in every 5 minutes, or something to do with the Avengers happen every 5 minutes, you know, then it's worth having a standalone movie. If you're not going to do that, then I would say then just have Spider-Man appear in Avengers movies like what we saw in, you know, Captain America Civil War. But, you know, so the good parts about the film I want to talk about now. And again, guys, not a rant that it's a bad movie. I know a lot of people are saying this is the best Spider-Man movie of them all. I'm not prepared to say that. I think this was the best type of story to tell about Spider-Man. Like I said, I thought the early Sam Raimi movies dealt into too much emotional, brooding Spider-Man. And so that's the only thing I think that kind of took people off. You know, at points it was kind of gloomy. It was kind of, in the first Spider-Man, it just reminds you of all these other troubled hero movies, right? You know, the and all these dark heroes who go through a lot of issues and a lot of problems, whereas I've always kind of looked at Spider-Man as a more look on the bright side character. And, you know, the earlier Spider-Mans did capture some elements of that, but then, you know, there are a lot of emotional roller coasters, you know, through the Spider-Man movies that, you know, I don't think, you know, was appropriate. You know, but anyway, we got into Vulture, who I like. You know, I like Michael Keaton. I knew Michael Keaton was going to be great in this film, and I really liked his scenes. I wanted to see a lot more Michael Keaton, you know, scenes, and it was. You know, I felt like Michael Keaton and Robert Downey Jr. really carried this movie. You know, that's really how I felt about it. But you know, the thing about the Michael Keaton scenes that were good was he basically wasn't this very one-dimensional bad guy. You know, you really kind of understood his situation in that you know, he wasn't. He didn't start off as a bad guy. He was basically like, hey, you know, the rich people are always sticking it to us. And a lot of critics have said that, oh, we don't know why the Vulture was so, you know, upset, that he was just, you know, angry and going after Spider-Man and doing all this stuff. And his family was, looked pretty well off, and his motivations didn't seem very much in line with, you know, why he was a bad guy. But I disagree with that. I think Michael Keaton pretty much homed in pretty good on that in the scenes where he was saying basically that the rich people have always been sticking it to guys like him, the working class guys like him, coming in and destroying things, making weapons, as he gave reference to even Tony Stark, making a fortune off of being an arms dealer. And, after he's made his fortune doing that, now he can kind of sit back and play holier than thou and try to make the world right after he's created so much trouble in the world. And so I kind of understood Adrian Toome's philosophy about the entire thing, and I understood a lot of his motivations. Now, I do agree we get this big reveal in the movie, and these was like my favorite. This definitely was my favorite parts of the movie, where we get to find out that Adrian Toomes is the father of Liz, or Spider-Man's love interest, right? We got to see all that, and it was like this shocker that I wasn't prepared for, that wasn't tipped off for, and that I really liked that. That got me. I kind of felt this edge of the seat moment, this kind of scary moment of how Adrian Toomes was figuring out that Peter Parker was Spider-Man, like they always do in Spider-Man movies. He's like the easiest character to figure out his identity for some reason. But it was just how he did the scene, how he was able to quickly put the pieces together and analyze that this guy's a Spider-Man, he's dating my daughter, and he's like, excuse me, baby, go ahead on into the your homecoming dance that, and he threatens Peter Parker. He's like, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. And it's that kind of, I don't know what kind of accent that is Michael Keaton has in that film. Is it like New York, or is it like a mix of Boston or something? But I liked it, and it's just very intimidating at parts. But some people have argued that what happened with Michael Keaton's family is, if you looked at I think her name is Gabrielle Garvey. Garcelle, I forget her name. She used to play on the Jamie Foxx show, and she's done a lot of other movies. Beautiful woman. But she plays his wife, and their family looked very ideal. It didn't look like any problems were going on. Some people said, well, he didn't. Vulture really didn't have any motivation to do all this stuff. He had a great family, but I don't necessarily think that necessarily need to be the case, because we've seen many cases where the wife and the kids and the family life looks great, and it looks wonderful, and the patriarch of the family, he's going through hell to keep that family afloat, and they don't even know what's going on. He's holding back all the negative things from them and sheltering them from it. So although they think they're living a good life, they aren't. I think we got to see some things like that play out in the Bernie Sanders case. Right, I'm sorry, not the Bernie Sanders. I'm sorry, Bernie. You're the direct opposite of this guy, the Bernie Madoff. The Bernie Madoff cases. But anyway, guys, so people complained about that. But again, I thought everything with the Vulture was spot on. I thought all that worked quite well. And we do get to see Peter Parker coming to his own. And, maybe it was to Tom Holland's supporting cast, his Ned. These are very young kids, We had Zendaya, and Zendaya, her to be a pretty, much a childhood actor. It could be due to the writing and stuff, but here's what I think. I think if given the proper writing, both Tom Holland and Zendaya, they could have really done some great acting in this film, even though I know they're playing childhood actors and there's a lot of comedy in it, they could have done some scenes where they were kind of wise beyond their youth, like rarely, but does happen in some cases, how young people are. But what I also like about the film, I do like it's a film as well that I can take my family to, your families. One of these films you could take your family to see, and you don't got your family sitting up there going through, a lot of very adult, mature violence, things like that. So it really fits that demographic of a lot of these 13-year-olds, 17-year-olds, and that you want to take to see a superhero movie, but you don't always want all this killing and adult themes and all of that. So like that part, like that part of the film as well. All in all, I thought it was a good film. Is it? The expectations was high, so because my expectations were so high, it was a lot of stuff that it just wasn't gonna live up to anyway. So I had to just kind of put that out there. But I wouldn't say this was the best Spider-Man film. I think I still have to go with Spider-Man 2 at this point. I think Spider-Man 2 would be the best Spider-Man film, and this may fall somewhere behind it. Also, I don't know if I want to see any more of these Spider-Man movies, these Spider-Man Homecoming movies. It's not against, the actors in the movie, but I want to see them just now. We've had an introduction to them. We pretty much understand the direction and where they're going. Now I understand the character. Now let's just have him team up with the Avengers from time to time in these movies, put him in Infinity Wars and all that. That'd be awesome. That's really all I need to see now. So guys, that's my review, of Spider-Man Homecoming. Thought it was a good film. Thought it was a good Avengers film. Thought it was a good Marvel film. Didn't think it was a super great Spider-Man film. I think it was just I don't think it was a lot, but guys, anyway, that's my review. Tell me what you think, if you really liked it, if you really thought it was the best. Guys, if you like content like this, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're on Steam, don't forget to upvote. And until next time, guys, take care.